This is the Leading Second podcast, where we're on a mission to raise up uncommon church builders and be the kind of leaders our pastors would kill to have on the team. The Leading Second podcast releases every Thursday morning, so hit subscribe, share this with your team, and let's join Pastor Brandon Stewart for another vital conversation for all of us who lead from the middle. Hello, Leading Second. Welcome back to the podcast. My name's Clark. I'm one of the team members here and so glad you've joined us. And maybe this is actually your first time. I just want to say welcome. I'm glad you're here. And if you find yourself in that spot, in that tension where you're not the one in charge, but you're still leading, you're in the proverbial second chair, welcome. You found your family of uncommon church builders. We're a community who just wants to do it right for their church, for their pastor, and so welcome. Today we have a great conversation with Pastor Pace Hartfield later in the episode, but first we actually have something new for you. To start off the episode, we're going to lean into a few lessons learned from the second chair, and we get to have one of our Leading Second team members, Taylor Persello, talk to us about 5 gifts that you can give to your pastor. Let's listen in.
Hey everyone, I'm Taylor Persello, and I serve as the operations executive at Genesis Church in good old Spokane, Washington. And I want to share with you all 5 gifts that you give to your pastor. These are just a few lessons that I have learned along the way in my journey as a second chair leader, and it's my hope that you're encouraged by them today. So let's dive in. Number 1, be a multiplier. When you learn to duplicate yourself by multiplying and growing the talent of others, when you learn to work through a team, your pastor's load is lighter. That means that their investment into you extends beyond just you. You actually become a multiplying leader or a multiplying hire and an incredible asset to your organization. Your pastor is able to accomplish so much more through you with far less energy expended, and the ball moves down the field with so much more momentum. So be a multiplier. Number 2, stay flexible. You give your pastor a great gift when you stay adaptable in your methodology and your execution. When plans change and directions change, be the first one to say, let's go. This was really hard for me, but I have just learned there's been so much gold and value added to my leadership by staying flexible. Number 3, just figure it out. It's a gift to your pastor when you can do everything you possibly can to find the solution before they're even aware that there's a problem. When you can see problems before they do and work really quick to solve them, you lighten their load and you help keep them running fast and distraction-free. You're in your position because they trust you. So honor and leverage their trust to hold their arms up high by being a world-class problem solver. Bringing intentional and well thought out solutions is far more attractive and life-giving than throwing more problems onto their already burdened shoulders. Just figure it out. Number 4, be disciplined. Some of the best leaders out there are the best leaders because of discipline in their relationship with God, their prayer, their study, and their lifestyle habits. Yes, even eating well and working out matters. Discipline carries you when motivation fails. So lean into discipline and let your motivation catch up if it needs to. Be disciplined. Number 5, stay hungry for God. Probably the most important one, right? Hungry leaders are a gift to pastors. Hungry leaders carry a God confidence, a God authority, and a fresh anointing of the Holy Spirit. When you are constantly hungry for God and in pursuit of the heart of God, your life as a leader gets bigger, it expands, your capacity is stretched, and your heart grows bold. A hunger for God gives way to life to the full, to what 2 Corinthians 6:11 calls a wide open, spacious life. And what a gift this is to your pastor. So stay hungry for God. I hope this blessed you all today. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Have a great day.
Well, for today's episode, we're continuing our series, Healthy Hustle. Throughout this series, our goal is to break down the dichotomy between hard work and rest, and we want to equip you to run at a sustainable pace in the season. So I get to welcome Pastor Pace Hartfield, the lead pastor at One Place Church in Hayden, Idaho, who sits down with Pastor Brandon Stewart to talk about how to avoid burnout. So let's listen in.
Well, Pace, so good to have you back on the Leading Second podcast with us today. Why don't you say what's up to everybody?
What's up, Brandon? Man, I love you like crazy, and it's an honor to be with you. This is always a joy, and I love this family we have, our team church family, and beyond that with Leading Second. So it's always an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a treat and an honor for us. We love your family, and we love your church. You're building a really, really special church in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Why don't you brag on One Place Church for a second?
Yeah, we love it, and it's a great place to be. And God's has brought in bringing us tremendous people to advance His kingdom here in the Northwest and be an epicenter for a move that we believe is going to impact beyond the Northwest. But I feel like I'm serving God in paradise in a lot of ways. But it comes with its own difficulties. But I love our church. I love our people, and I love what we're doing, collectively to see people rescued and united in Jesus.
Beautiful. We love having you in the Northwest. Love having you, I guess, down the street. And thankful for that. I am also joined today by the man, the myth, the style icon himself, Jonathan O'Reilly. Say what's up to everybody, John.
What's up, everybody? I don't know about style icon, but I try to help you out as much as I can. That's
I'm 40 and I realize I can't wear what Gen Z's wearing. John, help me, help us all. No, John's you're from the Rock Church in Kansas City.
Rock
Missouri.
KC, yeah, Kansas City, Missouri, in the Midwest, building the kingdom. And I serve as our executive pastor and just building team, building people, and we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, you guys have a great church and a great team. I love you guys a lot. Been going there for a lot of years now. And Jonathan's going to help me to interview Pace because Pace, I really feel like there is some gold in you and what we're going to talk about today, and really respect how you lead in this space. So today we're in this series on a healthy hustle. And what does that look like, especially as we make our way and we come to terms with the new reality we're all leading in and the unique challenges that we're facing in this season right now. Man, I'm just more convinced than ever that we need healthy leaders in the kingdom, that we need to hustle, but we need a healthy hustle about us. And so we've just kind of devoted a few episodes here to that thought. And today, Pace, I would love for you to help us answer the question a bit or look at it. How do I avoid burnout? The big B, avoid burnout, because Lord knows you just don't have to be in ministry very long until you probably see that somewhere, at least on the horizon. And I think we can stay healthy as leaders, even as we go the distance. So maybe get us started today. And just, have you seen this tension of a healthy hustle in your own life and in your own ministry?
Every day. I think God has created us to give ourselves fully to things. And so if you love what you do, you're going to have a tension constantly of just wanting to just go all in and give yourself fully to it. And then, of course, the tension becomes, can you go so all in that you lose sight of, what's most important? Can your motivations and your drivers get off a little bit? And I think that's where burnout and stuff kind of comes in. But, ultimately, I think we have to really be aware of our interior resource, if you will. And I think that's where we as leaders in the church, not just in the church, but in corporate world as well, is we are so good at exterior things and building our exterior, but we really struggle with developing interior resource.
Has there ever been a season where you did stare down burnout, or you stared down, you're just feeling heavy and weighed down by the seas? And I guess, have you found yourself in that space before where it was different than the normal grind?
Yeah, I think of two instances. One was, 8 years ago, I was serving at a church, and phenomenal church in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and things were going phenomenal. And one of the roles that I had in that season was I was a campus pastor for our downtown Dallas campus. And I remember after the day, we had a huge day of ministry, great attendance. We baptized a ton of people. And I was like really, really excited about the moment, and so as a leader, of course, you want to maximize on that moment. You want to celebrate. So I remember getting our team together into a huddle and just to celebrate the moment and kind of lead that, that's what leaders do, right? And kind of leading that moment. And as I was leading in the moment to celebrate the wins and to be, praise God, let's go, look what God has done. As I'm watching them cheer and high five one another, I had a moment where, and I think it was a God moment, where I realized, I know I'm supposed to feel joy right now. I know I'm supposed to feel happy right now, but I don't feel it. I know, like it's registering. Yeah, of course, celebration, look what God has done. But I literally was numb on the inside. Wow. And it really set me back. I remember going home that afternoon and trying to think, when was the last time I felt like literally felt. I think that's part of the danger of burnout is numbness can set in. And I think numbness actually, is kind of the last straw before you really kind of fall off the cliff.
And I think sometimes we can think of these things in terms of dramatic moments that happen, which certainly that does. But would you say that there's maybe more moments where it's just a slow drift toward that? Or
yeah, I think you get to burnout because of that slow drift, Brandon. I really do. I don't think it's just one. It's not one just busy season that pushes you over. There's a really good chance. It's kind of like the thought of a sinkhole. The way sinkholes happen, they happen a lot in Florida, right? And the way sinkholes happen is during seasons of drought. The streams that are underneath the ground erode away the support of the what's above the ground, and eventually what's above the ground is so heavy that it collapses and sinks. And so that happens though through seasons. So burnout, it may be like COVID hits and you finally burn out, or whatever the extreme thing is that has happened. You've got a busy season and you finally collapse, but it's been seasons of drought that have caused the deterioration in the interior so that what's above the ground can, what's underneath can't support what's above.
Yeah. Yeah. So well said. I love, and maybe you could just take a minute to unpack this for us. I've loved when I've heard you talk about this subject. I've loved how you talk about the idea of drivers. And I think I just want to set you loose for a minute. What are drivers and how did you become aware of yours and what was driving your life?
I just would say, in my mind, drivers are your intention or motivation. It's the why behind the what. It's what is it? Why are you really doing what you're doing? What's pushing you? What's driving you to be the best at what you do, to show up, to, say yes to your calling? What are the real drivers? In a moment that I realized and became very aware of some unhealthy drivers in my life was a moment. Won't go into too great a detail, but in a moment where my lead pastor said some hard things to me that were true, but they wounded me in a way that they shouldn't have. And in that moment, what it helped me do was realize that I had made leaders in my life an idol. And so for me, an unhealthy driver was approval.
Wow.
Competition, wanting to be the best, because at the end of the day, I wanted my coach, my father, my pastor, whoever it was, whatever leader it was in my life, I needed their approval. So that's what I mean by drivers, is kind of coming down. And at the end of the day, if it's an unhealthy driver, more than likely it's an idol in your life. It's a counterfeit God in your life. It's anything that you put above, God's priority in your life.
It's great, Pace. One of the things that we were talking about a little bit, again, obviously it's a great self-audit to really identify, hey, what are the driving factors, or the main drivers in my life? You had mentioned something to the degree of just drivers can reveal obviously different things. So drivers can reveal like lack of order. Maybe speak on that a little bit.
So I go back to the moment where I realized that my driver was off. It actually, my pride got assaulted. I mean, ultimately, my pride got punched, and it broke me. And it broke me in a good way, And so I finally got to a point. I got to a point in that moment where there was some soul searching, if you will. Search me and know me, God. Kind of a moment. And it's in that moment where it's a disruption, right? So there are times when Jesus disrupts our lives in revealing to us, an unhealthy habit, a sin, an unhealthy driver. And really what he wants in that moment is, hey, I want to know your intention to change, because if you'll at least confess and be honest with what it is that's motivating you and driving you. Again, for me, it would have been the sin of pride of life. For me, that's what it was. Wanting to be the guy and wanting to be a great, be seen as a great leader, if you will.
Yeah.
So I don't know if hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think, again, I don't mean to skip over the idol deal, because that's so real. And I think, again, all of us just looking at, like you said, the why behind what we're doing, which ultimately I think big picture, the why is, hey, we're wanting to be effective for the kingdom. We're wanting to reach people for Jesus. But I think we are human, and there are things that get in the way, and distractions and all these different things that happen. You had mentioned, so maybe speaking to the young pastor, the leading second person, that maybe they're starting to identify some of these things, but they don't have a coach, or they don't have somebody that's trusted that they could go to and be able to, flesh this out with. Because I mean, that's a real thing, right? I mean, it's one thing to go to the Lord, obviously that's important, but then also to have someone that you can really just a trusted voice or what have you. What would you encourage, somebody that's like saying, yeah, you know what, Pace is right. There's these drivers that I'm identifying some, but there may be even more. So just maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't want to rush past the idol side of it in what you said of going to the Lord, just simply because it is in that moment or moments of intimacy that a leader realizes their depravity and their great need for Jesus to be our Lord. And to have, and so, because anything else then is about him or the leader, or her just trying to get it right for you, or just trying to get it right for the church, or just try to get it right for the sake of building the kingdom. That's all great. But it's gotta come from a place of intimacy with God. Yeah. Of, this is an idol in my life. I love this more than I love Jesus, if I'm honest. Yeah. Because of the way I prioritize my life, because of what's driving me, what feeds me, what makes my day good and what makes my day bad. And if my good day rises and falls based off of my performance, then I'm in trouble. Yeah. I'm in trouble. And so I would, it's owning your own, calling and owning your clarity in your calling. And that is so personal. And that's, I would say to second chair leaders, is like that, yes, you may be called in this season to serve your pastor, to serve, your a student pastor, whoever it may be that you're serving under, but your calling first and foremost is to God. It's to Jesus. And so, and that's a very personal thing, and nothing, not even your pastor, can get in between that. And you have to, in a way, be selfish. You have to selfishly guard that, and hold on to that. And then out of that, then of course, have great mentors and leaders. One of the great practices, if you will, or disciplines that I think help us stay healthy is the practice of submission, right? I mean, that's for real, is having people in your life that you're genuinely submitted to, that you will come under and you trust, and you say, I know. Again, I was in a second chair leader for the lion's share of my ministry. I've only been a lead pastor for 7 years. And so I had to learn to pray a prayer of, God, if advancing your kingdom looks like nothing more than what I'm doing right now, then let that be in Jesus' name. And be submitted to my pastor, and trusting that and trusting him. And of course, there's times when him leading me was painful, and him leading me was hurtful. And maybe at times where he led me, maybe I was a recipient of his flesh on occasion. Okay. Here's submission. Submission is trusting God, even in that moment, and staying under his authority, staying under your pastor's authority, and gracing up and understanding that maybe that God can actually also use this moment where you've been impacted by a leader to actually refine you and to make you more like Jesus and to make you more effective for the kingdom.
It's great.
I have a question for you that I have found very interesting during the COVID season here. COVID, to me, this season was just a giant stress test. It was a stress test for our teams. It was a stress test, for our church. Is kind of when the shaking happens, what's going to stand and what doesn't stand, kind of an idea. And something that I noticed, I have not really talked about this with anybody, but something that I've noticed is that, like you just mentioned, submission. To be a second chair leader, a leader in the middle, requires continual and constant submission and self-sacrifice. Jesus said, you will find your life when you lose it. And I will preach that all day long till the cows come home with leading second, because it's the right thing to do. But to me, the way that people put themselves second is not all created equal. And I feel like there are some leaders that over time have stuffed and have not dealt with things, or have put it aside, but done it in an unhealthy way. And then when the stress test of this season came, I saw, quite frankly, several leaders, even in the second chair, just go completely crazy, because it was like things that they had not dealt with and put aside really came rushing back to the surface in our stress test of a season. And so it's a long way of asking my question, but I'm just wondering, how do we stay healthy even when our role requires submission over the long haul? Because for some of us, I put myself in this camp, this will very likely be the rest of my life. The rest of my life will be defined by laying me aside to serve my church, my pastor, its vision. And how do we stay healthy with that continual, constant sense of submission and self-sacrifice to our work? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I think COVID, what it forced us to do was to simplify. And for those for the leaders, whether they're, lead pastors or second chair leaders, for leaders who already were laser focused and simplified in what they were doing, they actually they came out of COVID better. For those who did not have an ordered life an ordered heart. When COVID hit, then man, they were forced to simplify, right? It's like, oh my gosh. And so now you have this crisis, like, all the metrics that they had that made them feel good and don't matter any longer. So now there's a new set of metrics that I'm looking at, and they're simple, So I think there's that side. I know this is a simple answer, but it's a simple of, hey, slow down, simplify, and do what really matters.
What has simplifying looked like for you over the last 18 months?
It's funny. So Sunday nights, my Sunday night rhythms, and maybe we'll get into this later, but Sunday night, I'm always with my brother-in-law, and this Sunday was no different. And I was FaceTiming with two of my great pastor friends, or three actually, Josh Bingle, Kerry Robinson, and Jason. And we were just talking about the weekend, right? We just, hey, how'd it go? And, we had a phenomenal weekend. We had baptisms, we had new families, we had, everything was up. Everything was great, except attendance. And I was bummed out. And I was bummed out that I was bummed out. Because honestly, I thought that maybe COVID would have kind of beaten some of that out of me.
Wow.
And so simplifying for me in this season, I mean, for me, Brandon, it's a daily battle, man. It's a daily battle. Like I have to constantly go to my Father and get my marching orders. I have to constantly go, and one of my habits is I pray through the Lord's Prayer, but I do it in a personal way. And man, when you get to that part of your kingdom come, your will be done.
Right.
Yeah.
You then begin looking at a different metric.
Yep.
And the metric is, God, I just want to be in alignment with what it is that you're doing. And I want to find peace out of that. I want to find confidence in that. I want to find my fuel in that I know that I'm doing his work and I'm accomplishing his will.
Yep.
And that every other driver, every other metric, that, man, it makes me feel good. Like all those other things that they were up, it's like, oh man, it feeds look what I've accomplished. And look man, I must be a good leader because these things were happening,
Right.
I'm just shooting it straight in that. So I think for me, it's like, I definitely learned some things during the COVID season. I think we all did, but I find myself, and I'm hearing other pastors as well, I find myself slipping back. We're slipping back to old metric and what those metrics make us feel. And it's just so dangerous.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really great. And I guess I just echo what you're saying, and maybe even say it differently. I feel like for me, I've had to redefine what it meant to win in this season. And I feel like maybe you speak to this. I feel like there are leaders out there that are winning sometimes in ways they don't even know. But because we get our eyes set on some arbitrary goal, we think if I hit this place, I'll be satisfied, or if I hit this place. And I think you and I both, the three of us, have been in ministry long enough now to know you either arrive at those places and realize that was just some arbitrary goal or place. It really didn't mean what we thought it was going to mean, or, the goalposts shift in some way. And I hate that there are leaders that end up discontent in their call, and they're winning and they don't even know they're winning because they're discontent because they haven't reached some specific marker or place where they told themselves, when I get there, I'll be successful, or I'll feel successful, or, I guess, how are you defining a win for yourself and for your family in this season?
Where my mind goes first with it, Brandon, is, I know it's a book that has, been like read by so many people in this season, is John Mark Comer's book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And he talks about in that book, potential and limitation, and understanding that we are both. We're dualistic in this, and that he goes back to Genesis, where we, are made out of the dust, but, we're also then have the breath of God. And so we're image and dust. We are made in the image of God, but also made out of dust. So in that, he talks about how that's both our purpose and our limitations, And so for me in this season is continuing to hold on to the clarity of my potential and purpose, that is grounded and founded in who I am in Christ. That's my potential. My potential is in that. It's founded and grounded in that. It's not founded and grounded in how big my church is, or grounded and founded in, what other leaders. Honestly, that's for me is a pride of life. It's like, do other leaders think I'm a good leader? So it's my purpose or my potential, my image has got, if I'm made in the image of God, my confidence has to be in that, but then I have to also fully embrace my limitation and fully embrace that, I'm limited. Every one of us are limited in time. My body can only do so much. My mind can only do so much. Right. My education can only take me so far. So we have, my family origin, all these things. We have all these things that make up our limitations. And COVID was like a revealer of that, right? Like of our limitations.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So that would be it for me, Brandon, is pushing in, remembering what my true potential is, but also being very aware of my limitations, and then building a lifestyle that keeps me grounded in my drivers correctly moving me towards my potential, and going hard after it.
Yep.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Like, boom, go hard after it. But then also understand my limitations in my flesh, and the battle, with those things.
That's great. Yeah, Pace, I know we've all been in ministry enough to know people will ask the crazy question of like, how do I balance all this, right? And at the end of the day, we know balance is a myth. And I love what Brandon often says is it's not about balance, it's about rhythm and finding the right rhythms. And, we talk about limitations, and we talk about how do we avoid burnout? How do we, healthy hustle? What are maybe some rhythms that you have found to be just great in the day-to-day, week-to-week? What are things you've observed from others? Maybe talk on rhythms first a little bit.
So first is starting out with simplifying what matters most.
Yeah, great.
So starting there. And so, and some of those things, obviously at the top of that is Jesus, so that's got to be a given, because out of that flows everything, right? But then within that goes, okay, then what are the priorities that I need, to have? So some habits in my life is, so I've got a personal coach in my life who helps me focus. And I'll go through seasons, maybe go through 3 months where, I need my family life needs sharpening. I need to like ratchet down and get some hyper focus in this area, or my friends, the side of my life, relational life, could get better, my finances. So there's these things where he will, for lack of better words, drill down what's most important to you in this season. And then let's create a 20-mile march in which I'm going to keep you accountable to it. So that's one thing, is having someone in my life who is helping me get out of my head what I value and what I feel like, man, this is what is most important in this season. And then help me create some structure and some accountability to make sure that I'm marching towards that. Okay. Within that, there's some things that are steady always. My date night with my wife, That's a steady. I mentioned you a minute ago, my being with my brother-in-law most Sunday nights, that is a healthy habit in my life, because what I have found is I've seen too many of my friends and leaders fall on Sunday night or Monday. Like, because what's happening is there's a letdown from the adrenaline of the weekend. And so I've just learned to be in a safe place in the letdown,
Good,
and
yeah.
so that's a habit for me is that. And man, I mean, honestly, that has me up late. I'm up early Sunday morning, 3:30 a.m. as part of my flow and prep. But then I'm usually not in bed until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Monday morning. But part of that is just making sure that I'm in a safe place for my letdown, waiting for that letdown to come, because I know it's going to come. And then I get a little later start on Monday. Another healthy thing is, man, I know for me, it's one of those keystone habits, if you will, but exercise. If I'm, I CrossFit, if I don't get those 3 CrossFit workouts a week, I just know that some other things are going to be loose. It's usually an indicator that, I'm in a hurry, and I begin to put some things down. And then I know I mentioned a minute ago too, but I'm telling you, I've done it for a long time, and it's been one of the, I think one of the most grounding things for me is daily praying through the Lord's Prayer, and to make it my own. So for example, sometimes I just get stuck at the beginning, Father in heaven.
Right.
And I just thank you, Heavenly Father, who am I that you're mindful of me? I miss my earthly father, but I thank you that today you're my Heavenly Father, And so I think for me, at least, when I start there and then move my way, last thing that I pray about is my needs, right? Because God already knows them. But my prayers are bigger, they're more bold, they're more clear. Hopefully they're aligned to the kingdom. Your kingdom come, your will be done, right?
Great.
So those would be a few. And then Brandon knows I fish a lot. And that's very intentional. And listen, it's like I work hard to fish.
Yep.
Because I know something happens when I fish. It's like I'm focused on fishing. And so when I'm focused on fishing, I'm not focused on staff development and expansion for the church. And, even my family, I'm focused on fishing, and there's a relief and a refreshing, it's a refreshing time for me.
So good. Hey, talk to us, I guess, as we get ready to wrap this up. Talk to us as a lead pastor for a minute, because I love your season in the second chair. I always want to hear from you on it, but talk to us now as a lead pastor. This question: what do you want to hear from your staff or your team if they're not doing well? Because, and the qualification on this question is, I feel like, maybe you validate this too, I feel like, we struggle sometimes in the middle to know how to raise our hand and say, I'm not okay right now. We're worried about our employment, or we're worried about looking weak, or we're worried about looking incompetent, or whatever. And I'm here to hopefully, one of my missions in leading second is to break off the shame that those moments come with for leaders in the middle, and get some leaders who need help, some help. So what do you want to hear from a leader when they're just, quite frankly, not doing well?
I want to hear them own their order and not blame their circumstance. I want to hear them say where, maybe where they have slipped, or why are they in the place where they are? I want to hear them say, hey, Pastor, I'm not in a good place. My My wife is not happy because I've been working late a lot. And if I'm honest, I'm working late a lot because, there's some lack of discipline in my life. And you see what I'm saying? And it may not be that for the person, but I'm just saying like that they would at least own their part, because the easy is to blame and to point and to make the leader or the organization the enemy. And I know for me, at least, 9 times out of 10, when I was not doing well in the second chair, it was really more about me versus my leader. I would say that I want them to own their order. Don't blame. I want them to be open and clear about where the struggle is.
Yeah.
Because I can't help or speak into what you speak to me vaguely about. And so if you're going to, tell me, hey, I just need a little bit of time to work on my marriage, things could be better there. Well, okay. Is your wife about to leave you? Like, did she catch you looking at porn and that's why there's some challenge here?
Right.
Talk to me. Like what's really going on?
Right. I actually had to do this spring, and I always try to be the one that's like strong for my pastor, try to live leading second, but our baby was born really early, and it was like life just hit. And we were also headed into the busiest time of the year for Team Church, the 3 months leading up to Team Church Conference and all of it. And I gave it a week or two kind of getting into it, and I realized, shoot, this is going to be a slog. This is, I'm not getting out of this anytime soon, and I didn't want to, but I raised my hand. I got a meeting with my pastor and I said, I'm not doing well right now. I'm waving the white flag. I'm going to have to turn away for a little bit. And it's I've never really had to do that. I didn't enjoy doing that, but I just found the greatest support and help from my pastor, in that moment. And don't you think there's fear there? There's irrational fear, of just owning those moments. And I didn't want him to think I couldn't manage things or didn't want to lead. And anyways, I just found such an incredible support system from him. He jumped in and helped me problem solve, and he surrounded us with support and resources. And he, I looking back now, I'm like, man, why haven't I done that more? If when I've needed it, why did I ever attempt to hide or plow through, So I'm hopefully that's just my story. That was this year. But I feel like we emerged healthy from it, and I realized I wasn't alone.
Well, and that's one of those disrupting moments that reveals a driver in your life. You do not want to disappoint.
Yep.
And that can be, there's a good part of that, but there's a shadow side of that, right? And I think part of the reasons Pastor Kevin met you in that way that he did was he knows that you're not going anywhere. You have a track record of selfless, submitted leadership, and I think when we lead in that way, and then we come to our pastor and say, I'm not doing well, I would want to hear, to back up a little bit, I would like to hear that, Pastor, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. This is not like right off the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not quitting. But I'm in trouble, because that's a different conversation, What are we talking about here? Am I about to have to go find a new employee? Like, what's going on here?
Well, you're exactly right, because remembering my conversation with him, that was exactly something I just said on instinct. I said I'm not asking to not be involved. I said I'm not asking to turn my cell phone off for 3 months and you're never going to hear from me. That's not what I'm asking. I have an ownership spirit and I will own, but I'm being frank with you that my limitations are probably about an hour a day. And once I get past that, I'm just, so I remember him saying to me, now that you said that, I remember him saying, I'm really glad that you're not asking to just go MIA. He's like, I can meet you there. We can figure this out. And frankly, probably not a lot of people knew. I mean, our team at Champion Center just gets enormous credit because they surrounded us and helped us. And probably not a lot of people knew that. I was going on an hour a day of work, and so to your point, I think that if we can show up in those moments, an ownership spirit can remain, even though just the practicalities of what it looks like in that season, we're different.
Well, and I think that beginning to have that kind of conversation and that kind of relationship with your pastor, man, it's so rich, because here's the reality as a lead pastor. When we feel what you feel, we have the freedom to adjust our schedule, to back up, to call fewer meetings, So then what we have to do as lead pastors is create an avenue for those who are leading second to be able to do the same and to feel that it's okay to have the conversation. Right. And I would just say to that person in that second chair, is the lead up to that conversation is how you're leading now.
That's great.
Being consistent, being honest, owning the clarity of your call, owning the clarity of your identity, all of those things, making sure that you're operating out of an ordered heart that leads into an ordered life, that your pastor can see, man, this person, they're not lazy. This is not like they're just throwing in the towel because their life's just a wreck. Absolutely. They're just they're overwhelmed, or man, every one of us has been sucker punched by life and caught off guard. Yep. So it's a different conversation.
Yeah. Hey, this has been really good, really rich today. You're firing me up all over again, Pace. Thank you so much. I'm going to just, let you go on a last question here for a second. Also, thanks, John, for jumping on with us today and
privilege,
having a good conversation. Pace, I'll let you send us out with the answer to this question right here. What are you most hopeful about with the local church in this season? Like, what gives you the greatest hope for the local church that we lead in this season?
Seeing a remnant be refined and made stronger. Man, the gates of hell will not prevail. Yep. And this has been a refining, simplifying season. And I'm hopeful for the revival that is going to take place, because we are, I think the church as a whole is more aligned with kingdom right now than it has been in a long time. I still think we have a long ways to go, but I think we're healthier on the other side. Now we just have to avoid the temptation of going back to the old metric.
Yeah.
Let's burn some plows. Let's get out of that stuff. It's a new day. It's a new time. Hey, love you guys. Thanks so much for a great conversation today. God bless you.
For more information, check out leadingsecond.com. Follow us on Instagram @leadingsecond and join us on the Leading Second Collective on Facebook.